In this video, we're going to show you how to put on this high pressure switch. There is not a low pressure that I'm aware of, only this one. Okay, you guys that don't know, YouTube will not suggest a video that is not more than 3 to 5 minutes long. So this video is going to be longer than it needs to be, just so that the algorithm will allow you to find it. So if you think it's long-winded, that's why. Okay, real quick, let's go over the issues with AC on these cars. A lot of people are going to want to change this, and it may not be this. Most of the time it isn't. This one in particular, it was this. That's bad. Very hard to diagnose. It's all run by the computer, and it's almost easier and cheaper just to buy the parts and replace them rather than try to diagnose it. Unfortunately, it's a Volkswagen, and that's typically the way they're engineered. Pain in the ass, but it's just the way it is. So, your most common problem on the VW is down here. If I can get you guys up close enough, there is a valve that's blurry right now. I'm going to try to get it clear for you. And I don't know if I can do it from here. They're right there. As you can see, the plug for it sticking out. That's a variable pressure switch. That's what turns on and off your AC and regulates the pressure inside of it. It takes readings from this, okay, puts them in the computer, and then calculates, does it need more or less pressure, and then it responds with that little variable pressure switch. It does not have a regular clutch that goes on and off, and some of them have the clutches that go on and off. This particular model, the TDI, does not have one that goes on and off. It's just a constant running compressor. That is your most common thing. It's called, I replace those with a RKX valve. And usually when I do that, no more issues with the AC. I put on brand new compressors. And out of the box, they did not work properly. I had to replace the valve in those with the RKX valve. And then I had no more issues with AC. This car in particular, I replaced the valve as part of the diagnosis, and the valve did not solve all the problem. So the only other thing it can be is this switch right here, or the computer. Not often is it ever the computer. It's like a 1 in a gazillion, way more than millions, way past billions. It's 1 in almost nothing. So to get this valve off on this one, if you notice, it's down here and the fans are out of the way because it is deep. It is deep down in here. So if you can see what I had to do, if we can get some focus out of this, I had to put a vice grip on, there's a little hump on the hose, and then I had to use a crow's foot, 17 millimeter crow's foot, and this is a 36 millimeter extension and a nice headset ratchet. And you don't need the headset ratchet, but I do. And by holding the vice grip, I have a miniature vice grip, I've gotten it loose, okay? It's not that tight. To replace it, you don't typically need to have the Freon out of the system. It has a Schrader valve underneath it. So you take this off. This is pretty common in most AC systems, but nothing else is common on the Volkswagen, just so you know. Okay, and once I get this loose, I can't get my right hand in there, so I have to, or my right hand has to go this way to get in there with the radiator fans out, and there should not be pressure behind this. A little bit. It should just kind of give me a little tss, and that's it. If it keeps going tss, then that means I need to replace the Schrader valve. What's underneath it, which could possibly be the issue, and this thing's not being nice. Stay. Okay, that's after an hour fighting with this thing, so you guys can get it, I hope. So it's like 1/4 turn at a time. Yeah, I'll get it out for you guys off camera. And there she blows, voila. All right. There's a little pop of Freon, and that's it. That little nightmare. Okay, so the AC system, well, how it normally works. You turn the switch on, okay? about 10 seconds after you turn the switch on, your fans will turn on. Your fans don't turn on exactly when you turn on the switch. What happens is it has to sense pressure with this thing, and then once it senses pressure, then what it does is the fans turn on, and then your AC system starts to work. Your typical symptoms of the valve being bad are intermittent AC. You turn on your AC, it works for a little while, and then it doesn't work. And sometimes you can turn the engine off and turn it back on, it'll start working again. And sometimes you can turn the engine off and turn it back on and it won't start working again. Okay, if it's doing intermittent problems, 99% of the time, it is that valve down there. What this one is doing is on a hot day, only on a really hot day, on a regular day, it doesn't do it. It will reach a high pressure, that it'll start to reach high pressure and then it'll shut off. And there's one of two things that can cause that. Okay, one is overpressure of Freon. If you don't look on your label and put in the proper amount of Freon, it will do this too. You'll drive it for a while on a hot day, especially. You'll drive it and it will run until the pressure switch senses too much pressure, and then it will shut the whole AC system off. And then you'll go back to, say, idle after that and give it a few seconds for it to kind of cool off, and then the AC will stop working. Well, this particular car is just shutting off altogether. Once it reaches the pressure, it's shutting off, and apparently this switch is getting stuck. So it's going to full high pressure instead of shutting off for a temporary period of time. It's shutting off altogether and staying off until the engine cools down, and then that's what's causing this switch to go bad. So that's kind of the symptoms that you'll have. Again, rather than to try to go through a full diagnosis and go through and put the VAGCOM on the system or the VCDS and check pressures and all this other stuff, it is very difficult to do if you don't have a computer to check this car. It's best to just replace the parts, okay, believe it or not. So the other thing is, real quick, the fans. So the other thing that goes out is the fans. All right, so let's look at those, so you kind of know where you're going with this. This fan is the big fan, this fan's the little fan, obviously, right? This fan has a controller inside of it to run the fans. If both fans are not turning on and you have Freon in your system, then your controller is bad inside this fan. If you replace this fan, you want to replace it with OEM. So OEM replacement is MAHLE, Male. They have them at Auto House, Arizona. They're a little more expensive than the cheaper ones, okay? And Dorman makes a set of these. I don't know if I would trust them or not. Maybe, maybe not. That's up to you. But you need to have a good controller in this fan. So if only this fan stops working, then more than likely, if the controller is doing its job, which it probably is, most of the time the brushes go out on this fan. And you can get a cheap fan for this one. So you can get the 99-cent store, or whatever it is, the $49 or $45 one off of Amazon, and it will work fine. But this fan right here, you definitely want OEM, high quality, with the controller in it that's good, because I've gotten the cheap ones before, and this one here, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, and sometimes they'll work for a little while and they'll just stop. So the other thing is, this fan housing, do not put the cheap aftermarket one in. They're really, really flimsy. These are very stiff. If you put the cheap one in, you're going to be buying a radiator sooner or later, because it's going to wobble a lot, and that's going to wear your radiator, wear a hole in your radiator, and you're going to not like that. So get OEM for that, or just what I do is I just replace, I replace the fans. I take the fans and put them in the old one. Okay, you can buy just the fan by itself here and here, and I just replace those. Auto House Arizona has those, very inexpensive, the best price if you were looking. Same thing with this switch right here. Auto House Arizona has those. So if you just want to change it all, you can buy one of these when you do it. But remember, it is a pain in the ass to change. If you can see where those vice grips are, let me see if I can get you guys close enough. They are on the thicker part of that switch housing, and so that I don't twist the whole thing, because as soon as I started to twist it, the whole thing was twisting. And if you're having that issue, do not do it, because that whole thing to replace that whole AC line is like a giant job that you will not want to do. You will do it once. So make sure you're very, very careful with that hose, and put some vice grips on it to keep it from turning while you're putting on and off this switch. All right, so that's it for the AC problems. Hopefully that helps you guys who are trying to figure it out. I've got several AC videos on Volkswagens on 2 channels, so I hope that you guys are able to figure it out. There's no reason not to have cold AC. I love cold AC, and you know, it's not that expensive. It is kind of tough to work on these cars. And I do have a video on the replacing the RKX, putting an RKX valve in, and make sure that you get the RKX. Don't get the Chinese one. Believe me, there's a difference. Okay, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Please like, share, and subscribe, and leave your comments below.